Hello dear children, welcome you all back to science class. So by now, you are all familiar with what is force and what are the effects of force. So in today's class, we are going to learn about four different types of force. So the first type of force is known as a gravitational force or force of gravity. The second one is frictional force, otherwise known as force of friction. Next one is magnetic force, and the last one is muscular force. So these are the four different types of forces. In today's class, we are going to learn about the first two types of forces, that is gravitational force and frictional force. Now, have you ever seen apples falling down as it ripens? Or any other fruit? When it falls from the tree, we have noticed that it falls down instead of going up, isn't it? Have you ever thought why is it so? Now same is the case when you throw a ball. Now when you throw a ball, initially it goes up, then after it covers some distance, it will come down, that is it will come and fall on the ground. Have you ever thought why is it so? Now we are going to learn about that force today. That is known as gravitational force or force of gravity. So this apple, as you see here, as it falls from the tree, it falls down to the ground and does not go up. Same is the case here. When you throw a ball, initially it goes up, it covers some distance and then it falls back to the ground. This is because there is a force on earth which pulls all the things towards itself. Which means there is a force which is applied by earth which pulls things downwards. That is why all the things will come or it will fall downwards rather than going upwards. Now this force that pulls every object downwards towards the earth is called the force of gravity, otherwise known as gravitational force. So whenever you see any object like an apple or a fruit falling from a tree, or when you throw a ball, you can see it coming back again to the ground. All these are because of force of gravity. Because there is a force that is applied by the earth which pulls every object downwards. So this force that pulls every object downwards towards the earth is called force of gravity or otherwise known as gravitational force. Now let's have a look at the next type of force. Now look into this picture here. Imagine that you are riding a bicycle. Now when you ride a bicycle and when you take out your legs from the pedal, can you imagine what happens? Yes, so when you stop pedaling your bicycle gradually moves, but it slows down after some time and then it will stop at one point of time, isn't it? Yes. Now why do you think this happens if you stop pedaling your bicycle stops moving? This is because there is a force which acts between this tire of your bicycle and also on the road. So there is a force which acts between the tires of your bicycle and the road on which you are riding the bicycle. This force is known as the frictional force, otherwise known as force of friction. It is this force which is acting between the tires of your bicycle and the road which initially slows down your bicycle and then later tries to stop your bicycle. So here there is a force acting between the tires of this bicycle and the road which will try to stop your bicycle. Remember that this frictional force will act only when the tires of your bicycle touch the surface of this road, which means the two objects should be in contact with each other. So here the tires of the bicycle is touching the surface of the road. Only when it touches or only when two objects are in contact with each other, this frictional force will work. So frictional force is the force acting along two surfaces in contact that opposes the movement of one object over the other. So here, because of this frictional force, this force will try to stop the movement of this bicycle. So that is what is told here. Force acting along two surfaces that are in contact, and this force will oppose the movement of one object over the other object. And this force is known as the force of friction, otherwise known as frictional force. So remember that frictional force will act only in the opposite direction of the object that is moving. So for example, you are riding a bicycle and your bicycle is moving in this left direction as you see here. Now, this force which is acting on this tires of the bicycle and the road, this force will act in the opposite direction, which means only if this force acts in the opposite direction, it can try to stop this bicycle. So you are moving front, that is towards the left. This force will be acting towards the back. Then only this force can stop this moving object. That is why it is told this force opposes the movement of one object over the other object. So once again, frictional force is the force acting along two surfaces that are in contact, and this force will oppose the movement of one object over the other object. This object and this force is known as frictional force, otherwise known as force of friction.